We're not always going to know how things are going to happen because that's God's job. Our job is to walk in faith, know that it will happen, and if you're on your path, everything will come together. The reason we get stuck is because we are not listening. We are not listening to the whispers of life. We're all looking for these answers about what should I do with my life and what should I do next, but we keep bumping our heads. The Bible says, "For we walk by faith, not by sight." And many of us are doing the complete opposite. We are walking by sight and not walking by faith at all. We want to know what's going to happen, how is it going to happen, why is it going to happen. We want all the details. And God is a God of details, but He is not always going to reveal to you all the details and the hows and the whys and the whens on your timing. Everything is on God's timing. The way we understand things is not the way that God understands things. We have a limited thinking brain because God is all knowing, God is all being. God knows it before we know it. So if He's instructing us to walk by faith and not by sight, then that is exactly what we must do. We just have to listen. We just have to listen to what God is trying to tell us. Sometimes when you feel called to do something, you run from it. So maybe you're being called to start a business, and maybe you are running from that simply because you have not seen somebody else that you know personally start a business. You haven't seen somebody go through that journey. Maybe no one in your family has owned their own business before. Maybe none of your friends have owned any business before. So now you have this calling on you to start a particular business, but you're shying away from it simply because you haven't seen it done before. But let me tell you something. When God puts something on your heart for you to do, that is for you. If God wanted your mother, or if God wanted your best friend to start this business, He would put that in their heart. He would put that in their soul. But whatever it is that God has dropped in your soul, in your heart to do, it's for you. You don't always have to see it be done before. I know it can feel intimidating because no one has done it before that you know, but perhaps God is calling you to be the first person to do it. So don't shy away from things just because you're not sure how it can be done. Just know that it will be done, and God is going to help guide you through that process. You don't have to do what is expected of you, and you don't always have to do what you've always done. Seasons come and seasons go, right? Most likely you're a different person than you were 10 years ago. You don't always have to do things the way you've always done them, and you don't have to continue to do things just because people expect you to do it. Just because you're an amazing dancer and you took dance in high school, you took dance in college, maybe you've danced professionally, but now you want to do something totally different, something that is not expected of you. Maybe you want to open your own bakery, but your family is like, a bakery? Like, when do you even bake? You're a dancer, right? People know you as one thing, but you want to pivot and do something else. Don't be afraid. Do not shy away from that. God moves us in different directions all the time. And if it's on your heart and it feels good to you, then you should go towards that. And maybe you think that your calling is too small. Maybe you see it like, this is not a sexy calling, you know what I mean? Like, maybe it's not a business, right? Because these days a lot of people want to open up their own businesses, and that's awesome. But maybe you're not being called to open up a business. Maybe you're not being called to quit your job and just travel the world. Maybe you feel like your calling is small. Maybe your calling is to teach. Maybe you're being called to motivate, to encourage, to be of service. And that is not too small. Like, for God, nothing is small. God does everything big. I mean, look at how He created this universe. The beautiful oceans, the beautiful mountains, the day, the night, the trees, the plants, literally everything God made. So God does it big. So don't ever think that what you're being called to is too small. Don't expect for other people, even the people that are closest to you, don't expect for them to understand your calling or to understand what your soul is just lighting up about and what you're moving towards. Your therapist, your financial advisor, your mother, your best friend, they may not understand what it is that you want to go towards. They may not get it. They may see you as one thing, but you know that you're being called towards another thing. It's okay if they don't understand. Like my own friends, sometimes I share with them on a deeper level the things that I feel called to and what my purpose is. And sometimes I don't share it, right? But regardless if they get it or if they don't get it, it doesn't matter, right? This is my calling. This is my life. And the same for you. If there is something that you really want to go for and it's on your heart and it lights you up and you're excited, don't expect for everybody that you know to be on the same page. At this point in my life, I am coming from a space where I am living on a soul level. Yes, I am human. Yes, you are human, but we are so much more than that. Author, spiritual leader, Iyanla Vanzant, she said that your body is a vehicle that gets your soul through life. So yes, we have this body and we're made of flesh, but within that we have a soul. And our soul is connected to spirit. Our soul is connected to the higher power. So there is so much inside of you that you can do, that you can be, and your physical mind and your physical body, they're not going to necessarily be on point at all times, but you know what is on point? Your soul is on point. Your soul knows. Like sometimes I'm trying to make a decision and in my mind I'm going back and forth, and I just won't know what to do. But in my heart, in my chest, where my soul lives, it always knows what to do. I cannot live anymore out of lies, out of lack, and not living up to my highest potential. You can have all the money, all the fame, all the accolades, all the everything, right? You can have all of these external things and yet still feel empty inside. Live in your truth, follow your calling, and do what fills your soul. Do what makes you feel good. For those of you that do not know what your calling is, you don't know what your purpose is, then that's okay. We're gonna figure this out together. Think back to the moments where you have felt safe. Think back to the moments where you have felt lit up from the inside out. You have felt pure joy, like belly roll laughing. Like, when are those moments? And write those things down. So you kind of have to go back to before you got your heart broken the first time, the second time, the third time. Go back to the abandonment issues that you've had maybe with your family or your friends. Go back to before you were burdened with work and over responsibilities in your life. Go back to a moment when you felt peace. Go back to a moment where you felt joy. Go back to a moment where you just felt safe. And everything that brings you joy, it may not necessarily lead to a huge payout. Often people think, oh, my passion is gonna pay me a lot of money and it's gonna set me up for life. Not necessarily, right? But your job is not to chase the dollar. Like, stop chasing money. Money doesn't like to be chased. Anything that's chased usually runs away, right? So don't chase money. Chase the fact that you need to get on your path. You need to get in alignment. You need to get in tune with who you are and focus on that. Once you start walking down that path, you're telling the truth about yourself. You knowing what lights you up, what brings you joy. Get on that path and that will lead you to where you need to go. That will bring in the abundance and perhaps the money that you're looking for. But don't chase money. I don't want to be chased. Like, don't want to be chased. Have you ever had like a dollar bill blowing down the street? Like your eye catches a dollar bill or $5 bill, whatever it is, and you're like, ooh, money. but like the wind is blowing. So as you start trying to chase and grab the dollar, the wind is blowing and now the money's blowing down the street, and now you're like chasing after it. You're trying to stomp your foot over the money to grab it, or you're grabbing your hand out real fast. It's just like, don't chase the money. The money is there. There is tons of it. It will come to you, but get in alignment and get on your path. So once you wrote down what lights you up inside, what makes you feel safe, what brings you joy, what is it that just like makes you feel like this is it for me, what's pulling you, right? That brings you all this joy. Once you figure that out, great. But now we need to figure out, what is your soul saying no to? What makes your soul feel icky? You have to discern, what does my soul say absolutely not to versus what is coming up out of fear. Because fear is, you're excited about it at first, but then you get in your head, you get in your feelings, and now you don't want to like mess with it anymore. That's what fear is. So you have to discern, does your soul just say absolutely no to this? Like it feels icky, no way. Or is this just fear and that's why you're shying away from it? So I'll give you an example. Let's say that your mother works a government job, and your mother, since you were 15 years old in high school, has been telling you, you need to get a government job. They're great benefits. You'll get a pension once you retire. You'll get good health insurance. This is the way you need to go. And that's all she tells you. Like, you've tried different jobs, you've tried different career fields, but at the end of the day, your mom keeps telling you, you need this government job, do the government job. But just immediately, as soon as she says that, you're just like, no, like you're shut down. There's no enthusiasm, there's no feeling. And you just know you don't want a government job. You just know there's something else out there, but it's not a government job. Versus fear is an example of like, let's say you've always liked to sing. You've always liked music. From a little girl or a little boy, you've kind of been singing to yourself, but nobody really knows like you can actually sing, but you know that you can. So let's say you're at like a barbecue one day, and you're like, you're humming the song, the DJ's playing the music, and somebody comes around, they're like, hey, was that you just like singing or humming or whatever? And you're like, yeah, that was me. And they're like, wow, that sounds really good. And you're like, oh, okay, thank you. And later on, that same person, you guys kind of meet paths, but this time you're like singing out loud, and they're like, hey, it's you again, like you can really sing. And you're like, oh God, thank you. And they're like, you know, I'm a producer and I work in a studio. I know somebody that's looking for like a background vocalist. Have you ever done any background singing? And you're just like, no, I haven't. And they're like, well, would you be interested? And you're like, okay, like, yeah, that sounds really cool. So immediately you recognize, your soul recognizes like, this is exciting. This is what I already like to do. And now this person is inviting me to go potentially be a background singer. And nothing like this has ever happened to you before. So you're excited, you want to do it. Fast forward 2 weeks later, the day you're supposed to show up to the studio to do the background vocals, now you're getting in your head. Now fear is setting in. Now anxiety is setting in. Your heart is starting to beat fast. Now the voices in your head are saying, is this what you really want to do? Like, are you going to be good enough? I don't think you can sing that well. Like, all these things are going on in your head. So what you had initially was excitement, but now you let all these other things settle in, and now you're fearful, and all of a sudden you have a cough and you're not able to go sing your background vocals. So you have to figure out, am I shying away from things simply because I've allowed fear to take over? Or are you shying away from things because it just doesn't match what your soul wants? So write that down as well, and write down the emotion that you get about why you're choosing not to do something, right? So you need both sides. You need to see what lights you up, what you can't stop thinking about, what you feel like you're being pulled towards, and then you need to see what is your soul like always just cut off, this doesn't work for you, versus could there be something that maybe you like, but you're actually just cutting it off because you're scared? So write this stuff down for like 30 days, like a month. You will see a pattern once you start to write these things down, and you'll start to notice some things you're really just not doing them because you're fearful, not necessarily because you don't have interest. Also, what I want to say about finding your purpose and finding your path is move with your intuition. Our intuition is like a built-in GPS system. God has given us a guidance system embedded within us that will always let you know what's right and what's not. Stop doing things that don't feel right. I'm gonna give you an example. If I'm out at a friend's birthday party, I'm gonna show up, I'm gonna support. You know, a girl just like to do a little bit of partying, not too much, but like a little bit. But if after the party my friend is like, oh, we're gonna go to another party and we're gonna go to the after party, for me, that doesn't feel good. That's not what I want to do. Like, one party for me is enough. I have to honor that. So for you, stop doing what doesn't feel good. Stop doing what literally your intuition is telling you, I don't want to do this. Stop doing that. If you have to give yourself a 30-minute, 45, an hour-long pep talk in your car or while you're on your way to work, like, come on, you can do this with just one hour at a time, one shift at a time. If you have to pep yourself up just to go into your job so that you don't lose your last freaking nerve ending in your brain, so you don't lose your mind, then that's not the job for you. And you know it, right? You know it. So stop doing things that don't feel good to you, that are not in flow with you. And I get it. We all have bills to pay. We all have to live. We all have to provide for ourselves and our families. But some of us do have some wiggle room where we can do things differently. We don't always have to be chasing after the dollar bill. If we would just get in alignment and start telling the truth about who we are and the things that we want, we may not need to chase the dollar bill. We could work in any environment and be able to obtain money without losing ourselves, without losing our souls and draining our spirits in these jobs that do not serve us, that are not in alignment with who we are. Trust yourself. Know what brings you joy. Know what makes you ick, and know what feels right to your soul. Journal it. Walk by faith. Listen to me, you are not going to have all the answers when you want the answers. You just have to take a step. And one step leads to the next step, and the next step leads to the next step. And the beauty that I love about this life that we live is that at any time, you have the power to rewrite your story however you want to. There's so much power that you have that God has already given you. The tools that you need to succeed in this life, you don't always have to pay for those tools. Those tools are not always at a college or at a job. Those things are already built in with you. But if you can just get in tune with who you are and start walking the path that feels right. We all know what feels right and what doesn't. If we could just start doing that, your purpose, it'll pop up very clear for you. Very, very clear. So that's all I got for you guys. I encourage you to watch any of my other videos because I like when you spend time with me. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Bye.